AITA for destroying my wife's life after she disappeared for years and one day returned with a baby? My wife and I had been together for 4 years, and we were married for a good portion of that time. Honestly, I thought we had something solid. We had plans, a 401k, and a whole life mapped out ahead of us. For the most part, I really believed we were on the same page. Here's the thing. We both wanted children. At least, that is what I thought. Right after our wedding, we started talking about it seriously. She always said she wanted 2 or 3 kids. She spent her time imagining what we would name them, how we would decorate the nursery, all that stuff. She even spent hours online looking at baby clothes on Amazon and browsing nursery gadgets, planning this life with our future children. It was kind of our thing, something that brought us closer. We were excited, ready to start this new chapter together, and everything seemed perfect. But then, bad news hit, and it knocked the wind out of me. After a few months of trying without success, we went to see a specialist to figure out what was happening. To make a long story short, it was me. The doctor told us that due to a medical issue, the chances of us having children naturally were close to 0. I took that like a punch right to the chest. I felt useless. All our plans vanished in an instant. The news truly devastated me. I fell into a very bad state. Therapy eventually helped me, but in the beginning, I was completely destroyed. She seemed pretty understanding at first, saying it did not matter and that she would be happy with just the 2 of us. But right from the start, something fell off in the way she said it. It was like she had given up way too quickly. One day she was still dreaming of names and nurseries, and the next she was saying she did not need children to be happy. Now, listen, I understand that people can change their minds, but her attitude seemed strange to me. She went from being obsessed with kids to avoiding the subject completely. And not just that, it was like she saw me differently too. Overnight, she started throwing little digs at me, things she had never said to me before. She made remarks about the fact that I was not taking enough care of myself, that maybe I should lose weight or be more helpful around the house. And yes, maybe I had gained a few pounds, but it was like she was just looking for things to blame me for. When I confronted her, asking her what was wrong with this sudden change in attitude, she dodged the question. She told me I was imagining things, that I was too sensitive, but I knew something was going on. The woman I had married, the one who could stay up for hours with me talking about our future, had disappeared. She was not mean, not exactly, but there was this coldness, as if she had already checked out mentally and was only pretending. And over time, I started to believe her when she said everything was fine. I stopped pushing because I did not want to seem insecure. Anyway, years passed, and we were just living day to day. We had become roommates more than husband and wife. I tried to bring up other options like adoption or surrogacy, but every time, she shut down the discussion, saying she did not want to think about it. She repeated, "I am happy as long as we are together," but I never really believed it. It was like she was trying to convince herself more than me. Then overnight, she announces to me that she wants to go on a girls' trip. It was not unusual for her to go away with her friends. She had already done it several times, and I had always supported her. We lived in Seattle, and she often talked about going to Europe with her girlfriends. I did not think twice about it because we had built mutual trust over the years. I even helped pack her suitcase, checked that she had her passport and everything she needed, and I dropped her off at Seattle-Tacoma Airport. I remember the last thing she said to me before leaving at the terminal. She turned to me and said, "Thank you for being so understanding." I found that a bit strange. It is not like I had done anything exceptional, but she seemed so sincere that I let it go, thinking she was simply grateful. That evening, I stayed up so I could call her once she landed, just to check that everything went well. Her flight was supposed to last about 9 hours, so I kept myself busy around the house. I watched TV, kept an eye on the time, and waited for her message. When I saw that the plane had likely landed, I called her to see how she was doing. The phone rang and rang, but no answer. I thought she was tired, that maybe she had gone straight to the hotel to sleep off the jet lag. I did not worry too much at first, but the next morning, I still had no news, and that is when I felt this knot of anxiety gnawing at my stomach. I tried calling again, then sending texts, thinking maybe she was busy or her phone was on silent. But after a few more hours without an answer, I was officially in a panic. I ended up calling her sister to see if she had heard anything. Nothing. At that point, I started to seriously panic. I even called her friends, The ones who were supposed to be on the trip with her, thinking maybe there had been a connection issue or she had not had time to reply. But when I called them, they were surprised too because they were not on a trip with her at all. They were sitting at a coffee shop 2 blocks away having a latte. That is when the truth hit me full force. She was not on a girl's trip. She was not with her friends. She was nowhere. She had disappeared. I stood there, phone in hand, my stomach completely turned inside out. I could not understand why she would lie to me like that. Why leave without saying anything? I tried to convince myself there had been a mistake. Maybe she had missed a connection or there had been an emergency that prevented her from calling me. But deep down, I knew she had planned everything. The girl's trip stunt, her thanking me for being so understanding. All of that was part of her plan. I did not know what to do anymore. I felt like I was living a nightmare from which I could not wake up. This was no longer the woman I had married. This was someone I no longer recognized. And suddenly, everything became clear. The coldness, the fact she no longer talked about our future, her little remarks about my appearance and my health. She had distanced herself a long time ago, and I had seen nothing, or maybe I had not wanted to see. That night, I sat there staring at my phone, hoping for a message, a call, anything. But nothing came. And deep down, I knew nothing would come. The next morning, I woke up hoping all this was just a nightmare. But her side of the bed was empty, and reality hit me full force. She was really gone. She had packed her bags and vanished into thin air. And all the excuses I had invented for myself the day before, a delay, a dead phone, did not hold up anymore. It was obvious she had planned her departure. She wanted to leave. The first few days, I was in complete denial. I called her phone nonstop, hoping to hear her voice, to get an explanation. I even left voicemails. I did not know what to say half the time, but I kept leaving messages, hoping something would eventually reach her. But all I got was silence, and in a way, that made things even worse. It was as if I was left on my own to figure everything out, without any idea of what had gone wrong, as if I had always been a stranger to her. At first, her family was as shocked as I was. Her mother knew nothing of her plans and had not heard from her either. I ended up going to their place more times than I can count, talking to her mother, looking for answers. I think they felt sorry for me. Her mother let me sleep in the guest room some nights and cooked me dinner when I could not bring myself to cook. She sat there listening to me talk about all these little things that made no sense while I tried to pick up the pieces to understand how my life could have exploded without warning. And honestly, sometimes I just sat there in silence, too numb to say anything. I went from one extreme to the other. Anger, sadness, guilt. I kept wondering what I had done wrong. Had I missed a sign? Had I not given her enough attention? There were days when I replayed all our conversations in my head, all our arguments, trying to understand what had pushed her to leave. I kept asking myself how I could have saved our marriage, what I could have done differently. I know it sounds dramatic, but I was obsessed with the idea of finding an answer as if that could fix everything. I barely ate, I barely slept, and my work started to suffer too. People at the office noticed. They asked me if I was okay, and I just shrugged, saying I was going through personal issues. It was embarrassing to admit what had happened, to say out loud that my wife had left me without a word. Finally, I told a few close friends, and they did their best to distract me, dragging me out to sports bars or hiking trails, trying to push me to move on. But even when I was with them, I was in my head thinking about her, wondering where she was and why I had not been enough to keep her. One of the worst things was the constant questions from people who were not in the loop. Neighbors, family friends, even old colleagues who knew I was married would ask, "So, how is married life going?" Or, "And your wife, how is she?" Every time, it was like ripping off a fresh scab. I did not have the courage to tell them she was gone. So, I smiled, saying everything was fine. But that lie became heavier every time I repeated it. Therapy ended up being the only thing that helped me. I had never gone before, but after a few months of barely functioning, I knew I could no longer handle this alone. So, I found a therapist through my insurance network and started going every week. Talking to someone neutral, someone who did not know her, who did not know me either, helped. I poured out my anger, my sense of betrayal, the void she had left in my life. I talked about my sleepless nights, about those hours spent replaying every moment over and over. The therapist helped me understand that there was no magic moment that would have made her stay. She had chosen to leave, and that was on her, not on me. That was hard to accept. For a long time, I believed there was something wrong with me, that I had somehow pushed her to go away. But little by little, I started to see things differently. She had been cold and distant for a long time, and I had just closed my eyes, hoping it would get better on its own. I had convinced myself I could hold it all together, that my efforts alone would be enough to save our marriage. It was painful to accept that was not the case. With time, I started to rebuild my life little by little. I had lost a lot of myself in that marriage, and I had not realized it before she left. I had always been the one making efforts, bending over backwards so she would be happy, so our life at home would be comfortable. But now, I had all this time in front of me, and I did not know what to do with it. So, I picked up old passions, things I had forgotten. I joined a gym. I started reading books I had been putting off for a long time. I even tried new recipes. My work eventually got better too. At first, I was just faking it, barely trying to keep up with the workload. But as I got a taste for life again, I put more effort into my job. It was one of the few things that gave me a sense of accomplishment, as if I still had control over something. I had always been good at what I did, but then, I gave it my all. The overtime, the focus, it paid off, and I got a promotion I never would have gotten if I had stayed locked in my pain. Of course, there were still difficult days. From time to time, I would stumble upon something that reminded me of her, a photo, an old movie ticket, little things that awakened memories I was trying to forget. I looked at them wondering what she was doing, if she thought about me, if she ever regretted what she had done. But those moments faded little by little. Each time, I managed to pack those memories away a little faster, to move forward a little more easily. I also reconnected with friends I had not seen much since my wedding. We started going out together again, playing golf, hiking in the mountains, things I had not done for years. It felt good to have people on my side who were not involved in this chaos, who could help me move forward without bringing me back to the pain. Looking back, I realized I had put way too much of myself into that relationship, into my role as a husband. When she left, I felt like she had taken a part of me with her, that I had lost a huge chunk of my identity. Little by little, I was finding myself again. It was neither easy nor fast, but I was getting there. By the end of that year, I could finally look at myself in the mirror and see someone who was no longer defined by what she had done. I was no longer just the man whose wife had left. I had survived, I had rebuilt myself, and I had come out stronger. For the first time in years, I felt like I could truly live my life without her shadow hanging over me. And honestly, I was proud of that. I thought I had left it all behind. Life had finally found a certain normality again, or at least as normal as it could be after all that. I had my routine, my friends who kept me busy, and work was going really well. I had even stopped thinking about her every day. Sure, I still sometimes had memories that came back without warning, but it was no longer like before where every second of my life revolved around her. So, when someone knocked on my door one Saturday morning, she was truly the last person I expected to see. And yet, there she was, right in front of my house, a baby in her arms. I froze. My brain stopped for a second. It was like seeing a ghost. She looked practically the same, maybe a little tired, but still her. She gave me this look as if she really believed I would be happy to see her again. And yes, it hit me hard because I thought I was past all that. Seeing her again woke up a huge amount of emotions I thought were buried. I said nothing at first. I stood there staring at her. She smiled at me as if nothing had happened. And then without any shame, she asked, "Can I come in?" The audacity. Seriously, after everything she had done, she shows up there as if I was supposed to welcome her with open arms. But I stayed calm and I told her, "No, you stay there and you explain." I did not want her in my house, did not want her bringing all that chaos back into the place I had rebuilt, the only space that was mine. She looked a bit unsettled, but she stayed there and simply dove into her story. She started by saying, "I know this might be a shock, but I wanted to come back and explain everything." She even had this hopeful look, as if she really believed I would be ready to listen to her. I hesitated between laughing in her face and closing the door immediately, but I was too curious. I wanted to know what excuse she had invented, what justification she had found to disappear like she did. She continued talking about the fact that she had made a mistake by leaving, that she had understood she had lost the best thing that ever happened to her. Those words, not mine. She said she had thought a lot, and that after having this baby, She had finally understood what really mattered in life. Apparently, what really mattered was showing up without warning at my door after ghosting me for years. And that is when she looked down at the baby and said, "This is our second chance." I had a hard time believing what I was hearing. Our second chance. As if this child was supposed to be a magic reset button, and we were simply going to pick up where we left off. I tried to keep a neutral expression, but inside I was enraged. She continued saying she wanted us to be a family again, that she had made a huge mistake, but that now we could start from scratch. Just the three of us. Finally, I asked the only question that had been haunting me since she knocked on my door. Why did you leave? I tried to keep my voice as calm as possible, but I knew I would not be able to contain myself much longer. I had spent years looking for answers, torturing myself with all the possible hypotheses, and now that she was there, I needed to hear it from her mouth. She hesitated, looking down as if she was ashamed, but finally, she told the truth, or at least what I assumed to be the truth. She admitted she left because she wanted a child, and since I could not give her one, she had found someone who could. She said that as if it was no big deal, as if she had not shattered my life into pieces, as if I was supposed to just nod and accept it. She explained that the guy she left with did not stay, but that in the meantime, she had the baby and she wanted to come back to me. Just like that, simple. I took a moment to digest what she had just said. She had just admitted she abandoned me, that she took off with another partner, that she had his child, and now she expected me to be okay with us picking up as if nothing had happened. I said to her, "So you left. You found someone else. You had his child, and now you think you can come back and act like nothing happened." She started crying, saying she was sorry, that she had made a huge mistake, but it did nothing to me. She kept repeating that she had realized I was the only one she truly loved and that we were meant to be together. Honestly, I had a hard time keeping a straight face. She seemed completely disconnected from reality. This was not love, it was desperation, and I saw it clearly in her eyes. Then, she tried to guilt-trip me by talking about how difficult it was to be a single mother, how hard it had been for her. She was trying to make herself look like the victim as if her choices had not led her exactly to where she was today. She told me she needed my support, that she was ready to make an effort this time. During all this time, I kept thinking, but who does she take me for? I let her talk, but at this stage, I was no longer listening. I told her bluntly, "Listen, you made your choice a long time ago, and now you have to live with it. There is no second chance here." She looked dumbfounded as if she had not even considered that I could say no, as if she really thought she could come back into my life whenever it suited her. And then just when I thought she was finally going to understand and leave, she got angry. Her tone changed and she started shouting, saying I was selfish, that I owed her a chance to fix things. She said that if she had wanted to, she could have divorced back then and taken half of everything. She even dared to talk about the house, saying it should still belong to her under marital property laws. It was like her true face was finally appearing in front of me, and I felt immense relief. I finally saw her as she really was. I did not reply. I did not yell. I just looked at her and said, "It is over. You wanted another life, and now you have it. That is no longer my responsibility." Then I closed the door, cutting short her last words. Standing there, hearing her muffled screams on the other side, I felt a calm that was strangely real. She could knock, scream, cry. It did not matter. I knew I would never let her back in. The woman I had loved, the one I had married, no longer existed. In her place, there was a stranger who believed she could pick up the pieces when it suited her. I walked away from the door and sat down, lighter than I had been in years. After I slammed the door in her face, I thought it was over. I believed she would get the message and leave, but no. Instead, she started pounding on the door, shouting all kinds of things. I struggled to believe her nerve. I was there in the only place that belonged to me, the only space I had managed to rebuild after the chaos she had left, and she had the audacity to stand there demanding I listen to her. At first, I thought about ignoring her, letting her scream until she got tired, but my curiosity took over. I wanted to hear what new excuses she was going to bring out. So, I cracked the door open just enough to show her I was listening, but without letting her in. She looked like she had been slapped, probably shocked that I was not giving her the reaction she expected. She launched into a whole monologue, explaining she was ready to forgive me for slamming the door in her face, and that she wanted to start from scratch, as if we were arguing about a trifle, not her abandonment. She kept repeating that we could fix things if we both made an effort. At that moment, I could not hold back. I laughed. Yes, I actually laughed because the nerve of this woman exceeded anything I had ever seen. She looked furious that I was not taking her seriously. I told her, "You left, you had your chance and you threw it away. I am not going to pretend none of this happened just because it suits you." Her face turned red and she started repeating, "Do you not understand how hard it was for me?" She explained she was completely lost after leaving me and that she had understood too late she had made a mistake. But I did not believe it for a second. I told her she had made that choice. She had planned it, she had lied to me, and she had done it. Her regret meant nothing anymore, and that is when she snapped. Her tone completely changed. She dropped her sad and repentant act and started accusing me, saying I was unfair, that I did not even have the decency to give her another chance. She even dared to say, "If I had wanted to, I could have taken everything from you back then. I could have taken half of everything you own." I was speechless. This woman who had left me without a word now thought she was entitled to some sort of reward because she had not tried to ruin me financially, as if I should be grateful to her for not being as horrible as she could have been. I answered her, "So what? I am supposed to say thank you? Thank you for only disappearing without stealing my stuff on top of it." She stared at me, her face torn between anger and something else. Maybe desperation, maybe guilt. But honestly, at this stage, I did not care. I was just exhausted. All those years I had spent feeling guilty, questioning myself, wondering if I was in any way responsible for her leaving, they evaporated on the spot. I finally saw her as she truly was, and I felt the weight I had been carrying for so long finally lift. But she was not done. She started pacing on my porch, ranting that I would never find someone like her and that I would regret not giving her another chance. She even tried to make me believe that I was the one missing out on something by refusing to take her back. It was absurd. She was the one who had destroyed everything we had, and here she was acting like I should be begging her to stay. When she saw I was not moving, she raised her voice saying it was me who had forced her to leave. She claimed that if I had been more understanding about this child issue, none of this would have happened. According to her logic, my inability to give her a child made me a faulty husband, which justified, according to her, her leaving to have one with someone else. The mental gymnastics were impressive, frankly. I had a hard time believing she was trying to push her choices onto me. I told her very clearly, "Listen, if you wanted a child that badly, you could have told me the truth. You did not need to lie to me pretending everything was fine while preparing your exit." She found nothing to answer. She just looked at me as if I had slapped her. But I did not let her get a word in. I continued telling her, "You are the one who made this choice all alone, and now you have to live with it. It is not my problem." She tried a final angle, putting her sad look back on, asking me to think of the child and how unfair I was being by turning my back on him. She was holding the kid in her arms and she used him to try to guilt-trip me as if I was the bad guy. But I did not fall for it. I told her, "I do not know this child. I have nothing to do with him. He is not mine, and neither are you." And there it was. I could see reality finally starting to dawn on her. She knew I would not change my mind, that there was no chance I would let her back into my life. I saw the anger fade, replaced by something else. Maybe true regret, maybe just frustration, but it did not matter to me anymore. To me, she was nothing more than a stranger who had tried to trample me and believed I was going to smile and thank her for it. She stayed there another few seconds, as if waiting for me to change my mind, for me to call her back. But I did not say a word. I stayed there watching her until she understood I meant every word I had just said. Then, without another look, I closed the door, and this time, I did not wait for her to start knocking again. I knew deep inside that I had made my decision and there would be no going back. I walked away from the door with this feeling, I do not know, as if I had finally won. She had spent so much time believing she could come back and manipulate her way into my life. But it was over. I was free. There would be no second chance, neither for her nor for us. She was nothing more than a memory now, a memory I had finally stored in the past, where it belonged. After all those years of guilt and pain, I could finally breathe again. And you know what? It felt good. The moment I closed that door behind her, a strange serenity washed over me. I was no longer angry, nor sad, nor even shocked. It was as if all the energy I had spent on her for years, the regrets, the guilt, the endless questioning had dissipated. I had finally gotten the closure I did not even know I was waiting for, and I was ready to move forward. It was finished for good this time. But of course, things did not end as cleanly as I would have hoped. A few days later, I received a message from her mother. She apologized, saying she was ashamed of the way her daughter had handled things and that she had tried to set her straight. But obviously, it had not worked. Her mother was a good person. She had helped me a lot after her daughter left, and I could see she was truly pained by this whole story. I did not hold it against her, but I had no desire to get sucked back into this chaos again. I just settled for answering politely, "Thanks for checking in," and I left it at that. I was not going to give more details or waste time explaining my decision. She already understood enough to know it was over. Over the following weeks, I heard bits and pieces through mutual friends and via social media. Apparently, she had moved back in with her parents, and it was not going well. The guy she had left me for, the father of the child, was not involved at all. He had completely vanished. I imagine he had not signed up for the long term, and now she had to fend for herself. She had burned pretty much every bridge behind her, so there were not many people ready to lend her a hand. Her old friends, the ones who were on my side when she disappeared the first time, had no sympathy for her. They had all moved on and had no desire to get sucked back into her drama. Hard to blame them. Her parents were not thrilled either. They were not in a good financial situation to support her and a baby. I knew this because shortly after her mother's message, I received a call from her father. I almost did not answer, but curiosity won out. He was polite and direct. He explained to me that they were struggling to make ends meet and hinted that I could perhaps help a little. He said, "We know you cared for her once," and he continued talking about the baby and their difficulties. I listened to him politely, but when he started insisting, saying his daughter just needed a little boost to get back on her feet, I could not help laughing a little. Not out loud, but you get the idea. I told him as kindly as possible that his daughter's choices were her own and that I was neither in a position nor in the mood to help. I think he understood because he did not insist. Then, friends started contacting me again, people I had not heard from in years. Some tried the guilt card, saying she was going through a hard time and that I could perhaps find it in my heart to offer her a second chance. Another friend of hers even had the nerve to suggest the child needed a father figure and that I should not let my bitterness stop me from helping him. But I stood firm. I was not going to let anyone make me feel guilty for finally choosing myself after years of feeling like I was never enough. I had given everything to that woman, and she had thrown it away. The least she could do was own her choices instead of expecting me to save her. With time, the calls and messages became less frequent, and finally, they stopped. It was as if everyone had finally understood that I was serious, that I had turned the page and would not let myself be sucked back in. And that is when true peace arrived. My life became calm, normal, in a way it had not been for years. I had my routines, my friends, my work. It was not a luxurious or glamorous life, but it was mine, and I had rebuilt it on my terms. The funniest part is that I had started finding happiness in small things again. Things I had not even really noticed when I was married. I went on walks. I cooked my own meals. I read books I had wanted to tackle for years. This freedom was refreshing, and I realized I did not need anyone's approval to live how I saw fit. For once, I was no longer constantly worried about someone else's approval or happiness. It was like I was reclaiming my life piece by piece. From time to time, I would run into someone who knew us both, and they would ask, "And what happened with her?" I would give a brief, polite answer, then change the subject. It was not that I was hiding anything. I simply did not want to revisit a chapter that was clearly finished. She was part of my past, and I had finally learned to leave her there. As for her, the last time I heard about her, things were not going very well. She was struggling to keep a job, still moving from her parents' place to friends' couches until she was no longer welcome. People I barely spoke to anymore sometimes contacted me to tell me she was asking pretty much everyone for help. Some even hinted that she hoped I would change my mind, that maybe I would end up coming back and agreeing to play father to her child. But that was not going to happen. I had spent too much time and spent too much energy taking my life back into my own hands to consider returning to that path. I was not going to be her safety net. I was not going to be the one picking up the pieces simply because things had not gone the way she planned. That chapter was closed, and nothing was going to bring me back to it. In the end, I feel like I found the closure I needed. She had made her choices, and now she was suffering the consequences. And me, I finally felt free, truly sincerely free in a way I had not felt since the day she left. I had stopped letting her shadow hover over my life. I had turned the page, and I was satisfied. Not happy in a big dramatic sense, but tranquil, peacefully satisfied. And you know what? That was enough. Comment. Watching this journey unfold makes it clear that rebuilding your life after a deep betrayal is one of the bravest things you can do. It is a powerful reminder that setting firm boundaries is not about being cruel, but about protecting your hard-earned peace. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for yourself is accept that not everyone earns the right to a second chance. True healing means finding a sense of self-worth that stands tall regardless of who stays or leaves. We all must own our choices and the consequences that follow, even years down the road. You can choose to forgive someone to free your heart without ever inviting them back into your home. Finding joy in the quiet, simple routine of your daily life is a major victory. I hope this story encourages you to prioritize your well-being and always stand up for your dignity. Never be afraid to firmly close a door that no longer leads to your happiness. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.